Yo, I now quote an agnostic with a screen name, Apes of Wrath. It's no accident that low IQ people buy into Jesus, including Mexicans who even name themselves Jesus, blacks, desperate and depressed drug addicts, reformed drunks, the sick and terminally ill, inmates, white trash, and the developmentally disabled and impaired. End quote. Offensive as his statement is, he is correct. However, it's not for the reason he thinks it is. That is, Christianity is a hoax. First, the statement argues against the character of people who are said to represent Christianity and is no argument against Christianity itself. This is known as an ad hominem, or to the man attack, an invalid flaw in reasoning that often leads to illogical statements or fallacious ideas. Instead, the reason why Christianity attracts troubled people, oppressed people, the handicapped, and those with low intelligence is that such people's lives are more difficult, and therefore they are desperate to find a crutch or life raft, so to speak, to help them. Christianity being a common avenue that needy people turn to actually proves its validity. For instance, if you were on the Titanic and in desperate need of a life raft, you wouldn't simply imagine a life raft or search randomly for one. You would go where a real life raft would most likely be. And you wouldn't rely on one which was full of holes. The original form of Christianity had no holes either. It was a solid support for humanity. That others came later and dumbed down, watered down, prostituted, and perverted Christianity is not the fault whatsoever of its founder, Jesus of Nazareth. Apes of Wrath also stated, as man becomes more godlike, the need for primitive religious cultism will fade away. I got a laugh from that since I'm intensely aware of how ungodlike humans are. So I typed, do you realize that our bodies are basically water balloons? Do you realize how short our lives are in the scheme of events? Do you realize how small we are compared to our known universe? Do you realize there may be 10,000 things we don't know for every one thing we do know? Apes later backed down and changed his approach and complained that religious people are those that claim to have all the answers or know it all. Although this may be true for some, it's not true for me. Speaking for myself, I see Genesis as mythology, have no idea how old the universe or earth are, and have no idea how God could have created things any more than a dust mite understands how a television works. And I don't believe that I'm guided by God whatsoever. It's up to me to guide myself and use my own brain and determination. Apes of Wrath then made some brilliant statements. He typed, I personally believe we're as unlikely to ever unlock the secrets of the universe as the residents of a roadside anthill are to ever understanding what a passing car is. My proof that the human mind, just like insect brains, has these severe limits is the simple infinity test I offer people. Think about a theoretical place where the boundaries of our known universe end. What's beyond that? Nothing? Empty space? If it's empty space, it's still space. End quote. His conclusion was, the universe is infinite, which is what I conclude. He also pointed out that the Big Bang would explain almost nothing, since you'd always have to postulate something else that caused the Big Bang and something that caused the Big Bang's cause, etc., in infinite regress. We both agree that trying to contemplate these questions too deeply could make both our heads explode. Yet an infinite regress, like an endless row of dominoes, and an infinitely large universe would certainly both be supernatural de facto. Regardless who disputes this definition, supernatural is logically defined as something which must necessarily exceed natural explanation, which these cases would certainly do. Yet while I insist on an intelligent element to the supernatural to explain the birthing of natural creatures with intelligence, apes strongly considered a supernatural with no intelligence birthing natural creatures with intelligence. Apes of Wrath also asserted, I believe in something called the scientific method. Look it up. This implies that religious people are ignorant of science, which is sometimes true, but not always the case. Me personally, I love science, and I use the scientific method. Though religious people should be more scientific, the reason non religious people are always more scientific is because that's all they have. It's the same reason why those with no legs are better at walking on their hands, and those without arms have more dexterity in their legs and feet. Science is available to all who can choose to study it or not. Everyone uses science to some extent. Now, both Apes and I are race realists, a conservative position that sees vast biological differences between the races. I complained as a fellow straight white male that most scientists are atheists who promote liberal ideas such as feminism and a gay agenda, not practical science. I also complained that no professional scientist dares say that the races are biologically much different. Mr. Apes proved me wrong by referencing 3 Stefan Molyneux videos wherein scientists do indeed explain race differences. However, the scientists make their points confusing and unclear by claiming the out of Africa theory, pointing out environmental factors, focusing on differences between white groups, or having interracial relationships. I'm sure if they clarified the true reality of race, they would be fired. And their liberal bias certainly stands. Moreover, Stefan Molyneux himself, last name spelled Molyneux, made a video titled Why I Was Wrong About Atheism, where he denounces atheism as a religion of foolish leftism. However, unlike Stefan, I do not wobble. Quoting Thomas Paine, I love those that can smile in trouble, gather strength from distress, and grow brave by reflection. 'Tis the business of little minds to shrink, but he whose heart is firm and whose conscience approves his conduct will pursue his principles unto death. Additionally, the claim that atheists cherish their life more because they only believe in this one life is refuted by the fact that atheists have higher suicide rates than Christians. And there's many other points. But I want to keep it brief. So anti-religion has nothing for me. Instead, I advocate a solid foundation. Think about it.